You know, I think I've only ever seen one side of the moon.
Okay. There it is.
I wonder why it doesn't spin like other planets.
This is why. This is why.
You know, I thought that I was done with this video. I was just going to leave it as this artifact of how I started off the series of videos. It was just going to be a jumping off point, really.
Good day, gentle people, it's your favorite Mr. Voidu. Welcome back to the channel. This is the third and last episode of the Electric Universe, so let's charge right into it.
I kind of realize how crazy I kind of sound right now.
Let it be known for the record that he was right at least once.
I'm just glad you guys are out for the ride and maybe you'll get something out of this about what I believe in.
Well, I got 3 videos out of it, so thank you.
I'm not trying to push my beliefs on anybody, this is just how I feel right now. So I hope you guys like continuation of my response to Spirit Science Central and Armored Skeptic. The thing is, I've got another answer for another one of the questions posed by Spirit Science Central, which is this.
You know, I think I've only ever seen one side of the moon.
The answer to that is very well known. Let's see what you come up with.
Spirit Science Central ultimately posed this particular question very poorly, which caused many people, including myself and probably Armored Skeptic, to misunderstand what they were asking. What they were getting at, though, is that only one side of the moon faces the Earth no matter where it is in the sky. The fact that the moon only shows us one side and never the other is a mystery that has boggled the mind of scientists for the longest time.
As is true for most of science. But during the Enlightenment, we have come to an answer.
But if we look at it through the ideas of the electric universe,
you will lose a few brain cells in the process.
Not only do we get an answer as to why the moon does what it does, but also a fantastic story about what the moon went through to be as it is.
A fantastic story, yes. But that's all it is, a story.
Okay, so I'm going to go over the basic premise of the electric universe right here. In this universe, the gravity is not the main force holding everything together.
Just taking notes.
Instead, we state that the fundamental force responsible for everything around us is the electric force. Gravity and magnetism then are the products of the electric force.
I have a feeling this will bite him in the ass. I've seen his video, of course.
Okay, so with gravity, we don't exactly know for sure what it is. Not even Einstein himself has given us proof as to what gravity actually is.
Those words are very deliberately chosen to deceive your audience. Einstein was a theoretical physicist. He wasn't in the market to provide proof or evidence. But he did lay the foundations for a lot of scientists who came after him that do.
That's why his theories of relativity are still just theories. Because although we are provided some evidence that Einstein's math was onto something, we still don't have any conclusive proof that Einstein was right.
And here we have another one who confuses the everyday use of the word theory with a scientific term. A physical theory is a model of physical events. It is judged by the extent to which its predictions agree with empirical observations.
If we did have the needed proof, then they wouldn't be theories, instead they would be principles, facts, or laws.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
Classic move, really.
In order to do this right, we have to back up a step and put Einstein away for just a minute. We have to go back to Newton when the force of gravity was just that, a force, and not a curvature in space.
Space-time. You don't even get the basics correct.
If gravity is not what Einstein describes it to be, then what can it be?
First of all, Newton never tried to give us a mechanism for how it works, only for what it does. And that's why you just had to put Einstein aside. It conflicts with your fantasy.
Well, in atoms and molecules there are protons and there are electrons. Protons are the positively charged parts of atoms at the center. Electrons are the negatively charged parts. When there are an equal number of protons and electrons in a substance, then the electrical charge is cancelled out. It is almost zero.
It is cancelled out, and it's almost zero. Almost. I'm not going into this part. First of all, I don't know very much on the subject, which makes me say silly stuff.
The electric force, on the other hand, is 1,000 billion times stronger.
That's absolutely true, but it doesn't mean what you think it means. See, that's what I mean. I say silly stuff sometimes. The constant has a value that is much larger, but the force depends on units with a lot smaller value. Multiples of 1 electron volt is 1.6 times 10 to the minus 19. Gravity deals with so much mass that the resulting force is larger. And thank you for correcting me, Dora. So second of all, this part of his video is just useless for the rest of his claims. So let's skip ahead a bit.
Many hours later.
There's a super easy method to determine the direction of the North Pole in an electromagnet. And you can do it right now in the comfort of your living room or wherever you are at.
I'm on the bridge of the Galaxy-class starship USS Enterprise, registry NCC-1701-D.
The method is called the right-hand rule. Basically, if you know the direction of the current in a wire that's wrapped around a rod, you can determine the north pole of the magnet by wrapping your fingers in the direction of the current. What results is your thumb ends up pointing in the direction of the north pole.
Yow!
If you pull back and take a look at the planets, you can actually notice that you can apply the right-hand rule to the motion of the planets, and your thumb will point north pole every time. Let's take a look at the Earth, right? See, the Earth rotates counterclockwise. That's why the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So, if you apply the right-hand rule to the rotation motion of the Earth, your thumb ends up pointing up, which is where the North Pole is.
I'm just gonna let him do this.
I mean, it's not just Earth that you can apply the right-hand rule to. I mean, you can apply it to Saturn, Mercury, Neptune, and Uranus? Oh, yeah, well, I mean, Uranus is kind of on its side, but its planetary motion still indicates where the North Pole is.
Instant joke here about Uranus and a thumb.
Use the right-hand rule, wrap your fingers around the motion, and you'll find out that the North Pole faces kind of to its side. What about Venus? What do you do with Venus? Venus is rotating clockwise, so I can't be right about this right-hand rule thing, right? Doesn't Venus just totally debunk me?
Venus doesn't debunk you. Something else will. In a minute.
Well, the right-hand rule applies here too. Just wrap your fingers in the direction of the motion of the rotation, and you will see that the North Pole points in the opposite direction of all the other planets, which is what scientists now believe.
That is not what science believes. That is what science has defined. From context, it is safe to assume you are talking about the geographic North Poles of the planets. This is defined by the rotation of the planets, and every planet rotates as it pleases. So by definition, this right-hand rule defines geographic North Pole. If you're talking about the magnetic North Pole, you're just plain wrong. Not only don't all planets have this, it is not even constant on Earth. It reverses on average every 450,000 years or so, called a geomagnetic reversal.
The ease that you can apply the right-hand rule of electromagnetism to the rotational motion of planets says to me one thing.
That scientists made a very clear definition?
Cause of the rotation of the planets is the force caused by electrical flow of some kind around the planet similar to that of an electromagnet, most likely at its core. This electrical flow in turn causes the planets to have a magnetic fields with a north and south pole.
Not all planets have a magnetic field.
We can further back this claim up by making some observations, that generally there is some sort of relationship between the rotational speed of the planet and the strength of its magnetic field. Mercury has an electric field only 1% the strength of Earth's.
It is a magnetic field, even in your own screenshot. Magnetic.
And its day cycle is 58 times that of ours in length.
So 58 times slower and 1.1% strength.
And Jupiter's magnetic field is 10 times as strong as the Earth's, and its day length is approximately 10 hours.
2.5 times faster, 10 times stronger. Your numbers don't really add up. It's almost like there are other forces at play.
Venus doesn't have a magnetic field of its own at all.
Self-debunk.
Really what it has is induced by the sun, and its day length is extremely long, longer than Mercury. It's about 100 days long actually. Now Mars is the exception to that rule.
You already don't have a rule.
Mars only has half a magnetic field on its south side, and its day length is really similar to ours, almost the same.
Go on like this and I don't have to debunk you anymore.
Now, there's a reason for this, and I'll get into it later, but to hint, in the last video, the first video that I did on the electric universe, I cited a video that hinted that Mars underwent an extremely catastrophic process.
That reminds me. This is the result of a lightning strike. As you can see, it leaves a very distinctive pattern and no crater. That's not quite what we see on Mars or the Moon, do we?
And that catastrophic process destroyed its magnetic field.
Citation fucking needed.com.
But that seems to suggest that it once did have a magnetic field, and the electric dynamo inside Mars once propelled its rotational force to make a similar day rotation as our own. But in general, the rotational motion of planets is caused by electromagnets inside them, being fed by some sort of electric current.
How about the spin of a planet's core is creating a magnetic field?
We talk about the dynamo generation of magnetic fields to mean when you have a turbulent conductor, let's say convecting like the core, that spontaneously generates a magnetic field. If you have a little bit of current that happens, it causes a little bit of magnetic field that couples into the motion, that causes more currents, causes more magnetic fields, that couples into the motion, and then you're just converting motion to currents.
Well, that wasn't too bad, was it? In my last video, I showed that the north and south poles of the moon had more craters and bigger craters than anywhere else on its surface.
And then it got debunked.
And I stated that this was evidence that electrical machining was responsible for the craters on the moon and not asteroid impacts.
Since you got the facts already wrong, your conclusion was also wrong.
But one of my watchers responded, scolding me that you could do a 1-minute search on Wikipedia to find that the moon didn't have magnetic poles and that it didn't have much of a magnetic field at all.
An analysis of magnetized moon rocks brought to Earth by Apollo astronauts showed that the moon must have had a strong magnetic field at least 4.25 billion years ago.
You know, I'm actually open to criticism and the possibility that I'm totally wrong about this whole electric universe thing.
So, you gonna make a statement soon?
So I went back and did some research, bracing myself for the moment that I would be refuted forever. This whole video series would be squashed, ruined, kabamboozled. But it turns out we were both right. You see, the moon does not have a magnetic field of its own, but scientists think that it did a long time ago.
Indeed.
And they even theorized that its magnetic field was even stronger than the Earth's. If the moon did have a magnetic field once, and it does not now, then this is the key that we need to solve the mystery that the moon shows us only one side.
Hell no! No! No!
Not only that, we get a fantastic story of what happened to the moon that changed everything about it. Let's review what we know about the moon, shall we?
What we know about the moon, or what you claim about the moon?
1. The moon does not have a polar magnetic field.
Not anymore, correct.
2. The moon does not rotate around its axis, but instead only one side of it shows itself to the Earth.
We only ever see one side of it because it rotates on its axis exactly once for every time it goes around the Earth. We say it is tidally locked to the Earth.
Your two statements about that are contradicting each other.
3. The craters at the North Pole and the South Pole of the moon are greater in density and intensity than anywhere else on its surface.
I debunked that already in previous video. Link in the description.
And 4. Scientists believe that at one point in time, the moon did have a strong magnetic field, but then it lost it.
Isn't that the same as point 1?
So, let's run with the theory that the craters of the moon were caused by electrical machining and not asteroid impacts.
Like I said earlier, we would be looking for patterns like this, not for craters.
Let's also go with the theory that the rotational motions of the planets are caused by electromagnets. And the currents supplying those electromagnets are entering our planets at the North Pole and leaving our planets at the South Pole.
Wouldn't that mean that anyone going to any of the poles would be zapped instantly? Because that doesn't happen.
This would indicate that if the craters on the moon were caused by electrical machining instead of asteroid impacts, the effects of the electromachining would be greater at the north and south poles than anywhere else on the moon's surface.
Which isn't the case.
So some planetary body within our solar system supplied the moon with a really intense electrical charge, and that electrical charge caused the machining through electrical arcs at the surface of the moon, and the effects were most intense at the north and south poles. And while you can see for your own eyes that the damage done at the north and south poles are much greater than anywhere on its surface,
Our survey said...
you could argue that the damage done to the electromagnetic circuitry inside the moon was much, much worse.
Excuse me, the fuck did you just say?
The electromagnetic circuitry inside the moon,
Pure fiction.
the overload of electrical current caused by this event was too much for its electromagnet to handle, and it burned up. This is sort of like if you plug too many hair dryers into the same outlet in your bathroom and it's too much for that side of your house to handle. That's what happened to the moon, really. It got too close to a massively charged object in our solar system and got overloaded, and the electrical circuit inside of it burned up and opened the circuit.
Citation fucking needed.com.
There's no electricity flowing through the moon, powering an electromagnet inside of it, so the moon doesn't have a magnetic field anymore.
Or, hear me out, the moon cooled down and doesn't have a spinning core anymore.
No one knows what planetary body short-circuited our moon, but right now, the odd one out is my suspect. I'm looking at you, planet Venus. You look guilty as hell. So, the moon has no magnetic field, which means its motions are dictated strictly by gravity now.
If gravity, by your own admission, is enough to keep the moon in orbit, why did you add the complexity of an electric universe in the first place? It doesn't make any sense. Everything you said was either not true, or could already be explained with the facts that we have.
In the first part of this video, we stated that gravity was caused by electric dipoles of some sort facing the same direction, mainly positive side down to the center of the Earth and negative side up. All of the relatively small objects on Earth, because of Earth's extremely massive size in comparison to us, have that same dipole configuration.
And that's why I skipped the first part of his video anyway. He's repeating himself.
The simple explanation, then, of why the moon's face is always turned towards the Earth is that because of its relatively smaller size in comparison to Earth, some of its dipole configurations, not all, but some of them also point to the center of the Earth, and the positive side of that dipole configuration is the face of the moon, while the negative side is in the back.
I'm tired of this. I'm just gonna let Veritasium explain.
The way this happens goes something like this. A moon starts out with its own rotational frequency, but the gravitational attraction to the planet is stronger on the side closer to the planet, and so it distorts the moon into an egg shape, which is greatly exaggerated here. As the moon continues to orbit and rotate on its axis, those bulges swing out of alignment with the planet, and so the gravitational force on them is constantly pulling them back into alignment, and this slows the rotation of the moon until it is locked to the planet. If the moon is initially rotating too slowly, this same mechanism can speed it up until it's locked.
So that's it. That's all I've got. That's my explanation of that little question right there.
I think that in conclusion, there's only one answer to all your questions.
Gravity, you fucking retard! Gravity! Have you ever heard of fucking gravity? Gravity! Gravity!
Thank you. I will see you guys next time.
Now I need a cigarette.
And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. In the description you'll find more information. This has been Mr. 482, out. Don't panic.